So starting in a comfortable seat, go ahead and close down the eyes. Bring your attention down to your pelvis and rock the pelvis forward. This will minimize the curvature in the low back. This will open up the belly. Starts to feel like it lifts the chest. And then reverse course, tuck the tail feathers underneath you as far as possible. This will open up the back body, spreading the shoulder blades. There might be a slight tuck of the chin. Rock to what feels like neutral between these two extremes. And shift the weight over into one hip and sits bone. Just notice the sensation. And then shift the weight into the opposite hip and sits bone. And then return to neutral, a space where the pelvic bowl is parallel with the earth without any gripping or holding in the hips. A place where it feels like the density and the weight of the pelvic bowl can be supported by the earth. And then begin to connect with your breath. Start to smooth out the inhales and the exhales. Let the belly be free from restriction. Beginning that exploration of the breath, softening across the front of the torso and the solar plexus, and a softening in the root of the heart behind the shoulder blades and the lowest ribs. A softening across the collarbone. And a softening along the seams of the body from armpit to hip. And then deepen the breath, expand the breath, lengthen the breath. Continuing to tease out that breath, bring your attention to the midbrain and set the midbrain parallel with the earth. And perhaps notice a buoyancy here, where the midbrain floats out of the heart and the heart floats out of the hips along the wick of the spine. And maintain an attentiveness. Set your focus, your Drishti, on maintaining this length between pelvis, heart, and midbrain. And within this action of length and extension, start to add a pause at the top and the bottom of the breath. So you'll inhale and then pause on full for a few heartbeats and observe. And when you complete your exhale, you'll pause in the absence of breath for a few heartbeats and observe. We're here together for 2 minutes of time. Kumbhaka, retention breath. Inhale, pausing on full. Exhale, pausing on empty. Maintaining the length along the wick of the spine. One more minute. On your next inhale, hold on full. Sip, 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 and more energy and breath, and sit against the pressure of the fully inflated lungs. And when you must, sigh out the breath to release the tactic. And return to the relationship between the pelvis and the heart and the midbrain. Notice what's vibrating. All right, beginning with our movement practice, maintaining this length and attentiveness between pelvis and midbrain. See if you can maintain this nice long relationship. So there's no undulating in the spine itself, but we're rotating around the pelvic floor from hip to front to hip to back. So we keep the pelvis settled in space, we keep the heart open, and we keep the midbrain parallel with the pelvis. So there's no cat-cow action here in the spine. We'll be using the tactic of repetition today, also known as Vini Yoga or Vinyasa Yoga. We'll apply one movement and then explore that movement or a combination of movements over and over so that the physical body can become somewhat inane and comfortable in the space so that our attention can move inward, our Drishti. So the two things that we're very curious about right now is the application of breath and the relationship between pelvis, heart, and midbrain, keeping that length along the wick of the spine. Feel free to close down the eyes at any point, and if you need to place your hands on the floor for balance, feel free to do so. For those of you familiar with Bandha, application of Mula Bandha can be interesting and useful in today's practice. Notice if over time the chin starts to jut out. Notice if the jawbone becomes tight. And when the mind wanders, come back to the application of movement, the sensation of breath, and the relationship along the wick of the spine. We've got about 1 more minute here. Take 1 more full rotation and then slide into neutral and observe the effects. We'll switch the legs if that's available to you, opposite foot in front. Same movement, alternate direction. Find the length of the wick of the spine. Midbrain is parallel over heart and hips. Breath is full. And just immerse yourself completely in the experience at hand, setting the Drishti, the point of focus here. Notice if the shoulders start to crawl up into the ears and soften. Notice if there's a collapsing in the trunk of the body or a rolling into the hammock of the spine. Maintain that length. One more rotation and then settle into neutral and observe the effects. Left fingertips come to the earth. Drop the left ear over to the left shoulder. Right arm sweeps across the low back, palm faces away from the body. I'm bending at the elbows. And then keeping the pelvis settled into the earth, walk the fingertips as far away from the hip as possible. At the same time, lift the heart out of the pelvis. So there's some spaciousness between the lowest rib and the left hip pocket. Let the head continue to hang heavy here, breathing into the side of the neck. And just notice how the shape changes the experience of the breath. And how the alignment of the midbrain, heart, and the hips changes the experience of vibration. About 3 more long breath cycles here. Right hand reaches for the left hand, breathe in. Right hand peels open, open heart, breathe out, find a little twist. Right hand reaches to left hand as we breathe in. Exhale, palm open, heart open, twist open. Inhale, reach for the left hand. And exhale, twist open. Find your own rhythm here. And then realign the Drishti, your point of focus, in the sensation of the breath. And attentive to vibration. Three more rounds. Once you finish your third and final round, slither upright and notice the effects. You have the option of switching opposite foot in front. Right hand sneaks out to the side. Right ear lays on the shoulder. Left hand travels across the back body, palm facing away from the heart. Set the Drishti on the sensation of the breath. And the sensation of vibrations. Left hand reaches for right hand, breathe in. Left arm peels open into our twist, breathe out. Left hand reaches for right hand, breathe in. Left hand opens as we breathe out. Find your rhythm. Attentive to the breath and attentive to vibration. Three more rounds. Once you've finished your third round, settle back into neutral and observe sensation. All right, moving on to hands and knees. Curl through the toes to begin. And then sit back into the heels for fire toes. Notice if there's one or two toes that need to be pulled apart. Interlace the fingers. Press the palms away from the heart and then up towards the heavens. You can certainly bend at the elbows. Searching for that length now from pelvis to heart and heart to midbrain. We won't be here too long, so stick with it. Coming up to stand on the shins, option to untuck the toes. Find that length from pelvis to heart and heart to midbrain. Release the hands to the earth. Walk back out to hands and knees. Neutral spine now. So that find that length along the wick of the spine from pelvis to midbrain. And we'll kick the right leg out to the side like a fire hydrant. So the knees at the level of the hip and the ankles at the level of the knee. And then look underneath you to your left hip and notice how all the weight slid towards the left. Take your outer left hip and hug it in. So you feel both glutes light up when applied. We're hugging the outer hip points in. This may send a little more weight into your right hand. You certainly can come up onto fingertips if the wrists are tender. And then draw the midbrain back parallel to the pelvis and keep flexing that right foot. Keep hugging the outer hips in. And then little circles with this knee. So over time, you're actually lifting the knee higher than parallel to the earth to activate that outer hip. Wake up the glute. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2. Extend the right leg out to the side. Roll onto the flat of the foot. Feels like a warrior 2 leg. and then walk up to stand on the left shin. Interlace the fingers, press the palms away from the heart, and then lift it to the heavens. And even now, hug the outer hips in. Left hand will hit the mat outside your shin. Option to use a block. Right arm reaches up and over. Find a diagonal here from the right fingertips to the right foot. Draw the midbrain parallel to the pelvis and the heart. We're here for 3 more breaths. Walking back to hands and knees, curl through the left toes, listen up. Down dog split. Lift the pelvis and lift the right leg as high as possible. Look under the armpits here and see if you can hug both outer hips in. Feels like you're squeezing a block. This will parallel the pelvis. And then use the back of the heel to lift that right leg as high as possible so we feel the glute fire up. 3 more breaths. Looking forward, right foot steps forward, warrior 2. Drop the left heel, press through both feet to rise to stand. As we inhale, straighten out the leg, interlace the fingers. Press the palms away from you. Lift the ribs out of the pelvis. Consolidate at the solar plexus, pressing through the heels. Lean over the right leg, triangle variation. Hug in through the outer hips. Midbrain is parallel with the heart and the pelvis. 2 more breaths. Warrior 2, stand tall in the spine. Right leg bends, release the arms. Extended side angle pose, forearm hits the thigh. Left arm sweeps up and overhead. Find as much length as you can from left fingertips to left ankle. Hands frame the front foot, lift your back heel, step to plank, and drop down onto your knees. Curl through the toes, sit back into the heels, fire toes, we begin again. Interlace the fingers, perhaps opposite first finger on top, press the palms away, and then up to the heavens. Find the length of spine from pelvis to heart and heart to midbrain. Continue to investigate the breath. Standing tall on the shins, option to release the feet here. Find the length along the wick of the spine. Using our interior spaces to procure alignment. Release the hands, walk back onto hands and knees. Left leg lifts now. I'm curling through the toes. Left knee kicks out to the side like a fire hydrant. Foot is flexed. Knees at the level of the hips. Ankles at the level of the knee. Look underneath you to your right hip. Notice everything swung to the right. Hug the right hip back towards the midline. We feel both outer hips, the glutes, wake up. Neutral spine, draw the midbrain back in alignment with the pelvis and the heart. And then little circles in this left leg, lifting the knee higher. Keep hugging in through the outer hips. Good. Step the left foot out to the side, onto the flat of the foot, and you'll walk up to stand on the right shin. Right fingertips hit the mat, outside the hip, option to use a block. Left arm sweeps up and overhead. Find as much length as you can from left fingertips to left ankle. Hug in through the outer hips. Hands walk to the top of the mat, curl through the right toes, down dog split, sweep the left leg up. Flex the foot, hug both outer hips in as if you're squeezing a block, and then use the back of the left heel to lift the leg higher. Looking forward, left foot steps to left thumb. Warrior two, drop the back heel so that you can stand tall. Straighten out the front leg, interlace the fingers overhead, palms away from the crown. Hug in through the outer hips and float the heart out of the pelvis as you lean towards the left leg. Triangle variation. Warrior two, rebend the front knee and settle into the arms. Extended side angle, left forearm hits the thigh, palm facing up, right arm sweeps. Midbrain is parallel with the heart and the pelvis. Return to the sensation of the breath. Fingertips hit the floor to frame the front foot, lift your back heel, step to plank, drop your knees and sit back for child's pose. Forehead hits the earth or a block here to rest. Meeting me in downward facing dog, slide the fingertips forward, plant the palms. Curl through the toes, lift the hips to the sky. Let the head hang heavy, midbrain is parallel to the heart and the pelvis. Walking the fingertips back to meet the feet, back of your mat. Bend the knees, hang heavy. Option to slide the hands under the feet, Hastapata, toes to wrist creases. Hug in through the outer hips here, fire up the glutes. And while hugging in through the hips, try to elevate the sits bones higher. 3 more breaths. Release the bind, hands to hips, top of the head, midbrain leads us to stand. Release the hands, mountain pose. Be attentive to sensation. From the back of our mat, walking meditation. 2 points in the feet, the heel mounds and the toe mounds. We take the smallest step possible, hands from the hips to the heart, right leg lifts, breathe in. Extend the arms and the legs forward. As you breathe out, step the smallest step forward, heel hits, fingers release, weight shifts. Left leg, arms and knee lift. As we breathe in, find your extension through the leg and the fingertips. Breathe out, releasing the foot, smallest step possible, heel mound, and then toe mound, shift the weight. This is the work. Attentive to the length of the spine and the relationship between midbrain, heart, and pelvis. Once you get to the top of your mat, you'll turn around and reverse course. Option to close down the eyes. Continue to investigate the breath. It's useful to hug in through the outer hips. About 3 to 4 more steps worth of time. Meeting in mountain pose. Observe. Warrior 2, left foot dominant. Fingertips slightly higher than the shoulders. Flip the palms up. Hug in through the outer hips. Lift the heart out of the pelvis and the midbrain out of the heart. Be attentive to the breath and vibration. Standing tall, interlace the fingers over the crown of your head, palm faces up. Hug in through the hips, tip over the left leg, as long as you can from pelvis to heart and heart to midbrain. Stand tall, warrior two, rebend the leg, release the arms, flip the palms up. Extended side angle, left forearm hits the thigh, right arm sweeps overhead. Midbrain is parallel with the heart and the pelvis. Stand tall, parallel the feet. Warrior two, right leg dominant. Fingertips are slightly higher than the shoulders, palms facing up. Hug in through the outer hips. Lift the heart out of the pelvis and the midbrain out of the heart. Continue to be attentive to the sensation of the breath. Standing tall in the legs, interlace the fingers, perhaps the opposite first finger on top. Press the palms up. Hug in through the outer hips. Lift the heart out of the pelvis, tipping over the right leg. Triangle variation. Warrior two, rebend the right knee, release the arms, palm facing up. Extended side angle, forearm hits the thigh, left hand sweeps up and overhead. Find as much length from fingertips to ankle as possible. Midbrain is parallel with your heart and your pelvis. Stand tall, parallel the feet, forward fold now. Option to use blocks or fingertips to the earth. Come to a neutral spine, lift the heart parallel to the earth. Hug in through the outer hips. Notice the pelvic floor narrows. This feels a lot like Mula Bandha, lifting through the webbing of the pelvic floor. Continue to hug in through the outer hips as you release into your fold and walk your hands over to your left ankle. Let your head hang heavy. Very active legs. I'm hugging in through the outer hips. You could even bend your knees a little bit. And then hands on the ankle, pull the heart towards the ankle here. Release the bind, walk to neutral, and then over to the opposite ankle. Outer hips hug in. Head hangs heavy. Use the bind to drag your heart towards the ankle. Breathe. Release the bind, walk to neutral. Hop the heels in, toes out. Bend the knees, standing tall in goddess pose. So you can adjust the width. Push through the heels. Push through the big toe mounds. Notice the legs fire up. Hug in through the outer hips. It's almost as if you're tucking the sits bones under you. So that pelvic bowl is parallel to the earth. The heart is parallel to the earth. The midbrain is parallel to the earth. Draw the arms up and out, cactus style, elbows at the level of the shoulders, wrists over elbows, any shape with the hands. Be attentive to sensations. Root, heavy in the feet. Hug in through the outer hips. Tall in the wick of the spine. Attentive to the breath. Sit a little lower. About 3 more long breath cycles remain. Stand tall, heel toe or hop the feet to a comfortable width. Option to close down the eyes and observe sensation. All right, meeting at the back of our mat. Bend in the knees, plant the fingertips to the earth. You might roll up on the heels as you inhale, drop the sits bones, lift the heart, look up. As you exhale, head drops, hips lift, we fold. Inhale, bend the knees, your heels might lift along with the heart. Exhale, head drops, hips lift. Find your rhythm here. Can you maintain that length along the wick of the spine, even in the transition? Midbrain floats over the heart in alignment with the pelvis. Surrendering down onto the knees. Right, hands draw forward. Listen up, 3 army crawls with the legs. I'll demonstrate. Option to untuck the toes. We lift the right leg up and out. Find that fire hydrant. Hug in through the outer hips as you point the toes and thread the right knee in front of the left knee. You'll walk forward with the hands. Left leg, lift up and out. Find that fire hydrant. Hug in through the hips. Point the toes and thread the left in front of the right. Walk the hands forward. Right leg lifts up and out. Hug in through the outer hips. Slide right in front of left. Let's do one more. Left leg lifts up and out. Point through the toes, hug in through the hips. Left over right. Good, and you'll sit down in between the feet now for Gomukhasana legs. If that's not available, sitting up on a block can be useful. A little bit of height to relieve those outer hips. If this is not happening at all in your body, You can extend the right leg, that's the bottom leg for today, long, and just work in that top leg, the left leg. Once you've found your posture, return to the length along the wick of the spine. Return to a relationship with the breath. And observe. About 5 more breaths of time. We'll meet in downward facing dog, however you wish to transition. I like to roll over the legs, curl through the back toes, and unravel. Once you arrive, step the legs wide on the sticky mat. Lift the sits bones high to the sky. Plant the left hand firmly, right hand reaches for left ankle, crossing our body. Bend at the elbow, pull the heart towards the ankle. Switching sides, root down through the right hand. Left hand reaches for right ankle. Bend at the elbow and draw your heart towards the ankle. Plant the left hand. Walk your hands back to meet your feet. Heel toe your feet to a comfortable distance. Hands to hips. Midbrain leads us to stand. Observe. From the back of the mat, return to the fold. Bending knees, plant fingertips on the earth. The heels might lift as you drop the hips to the sits bones. Heart lifts, breathe in. Head drops, pelvis lifts as we breathe out. Find your rhythm. Inhale, heart, head float. Exhale, pelvis floats. See if you can maintain that length along the wick of the spine from pelvis to heart and heart to midbrain. Surrendering the knees to the mat, walk the hands forward. We take that army crawl, Kriya, starting with the left leg, left hip reaches up and out. Hug in through the outer hips, point the toes, slide the left knee in front of the right. Walk the hands forward. Right leg lifts up and out. Hug in through the outer hips as you slide right in front of left. Walk the hands forward, left leg up and out. Hug in as you transition. Hands walk forward, right leg, final round. Sitting back into your Gomukhasana now. Right leg on top. You have the option to sit up on a block or extend the left leg along the rail of the sticky mat. Once you arrive, return to that length along the wick of the spine. Attentive to the breath. Notice sensation. About 5 more breaths full of time. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Find your transition. Once you arrive, step your feet wide on the sticky mat. Left hand reaches for right ankle, gentle twist, bend at the elbow, pull the heart towards the ankle. Switching sides, left hand plants on the earth, right hand reaches across. Release both hands. Walk your hands halfway back. Yogi squat now. Tip the toes out at a diagonal. Bend at the knees and drop the hips in between the heels. Option is sit up on a block. If this is not accessible, happy baby is the alternative. Same shape. Laying on your backs, knees draw to armpits, ankles over knees. Root through the heels, find some activity here. Find that extension along the wick of the spine. Just about 5 more breaths. Option to extend the arms. And we'll meet in a comfortable seat. Asana, star pose. Feet come to touch. Knees open like bookends. Slide the feet as far away from the pelvis as possible. Option to pull the flesh out from under the sits bones. And start with that neutral spine. Pelvis to heart, heart to midbrain. Good. Hinging from the hips, you can round in the spine now. Surrender into the shape. And settle the drishti, settle the focus into the back body. Use the breath to facilitate a spaciousness between the shoulder blades. And a spaciousness between each of the ribs. Roll up to seated, extend the legs long. Flex the feet. Sit up tall in the spine. Interlace the fingers, press the palms up to the heavens. Root through the heels, hinging at the hips. Maintain that length of spine from pelvis to heart, heart to midbrain. Heavy the thighs into the mat. Three more breath cycles. And then sit all the way up. Hands hit the mat next to your hips. Hop the hips towards the heels so we can roll down. Bring a block or your approximation of a block with you. TP pose. Once you arrive, walk the feet wider and let the knees knock together. Take a few moments to observe the sensation of the spine being cradled in the earth. Taking your block between the thighs now, separate the knees. Block, or if you're using a rolled up towel, slide it as close to the pelvic floor as possible. So the deep pocket of the inner thighs. And then hug the block, stacking the knees over the hips. Option to extend the legs. Take a few breaths here, squeezing the block. Hug in through the outer hips as well. Whether or not the feet are up, we reach through the fingertips. Try to lift the shoulder blades off the earth. And one line of energy, I'm keeping the midbrain parallel with the heart. So no jutting out in the chin. Just lift straight up. This might be just up onto the shoulder points. Feeling a shaking as we're waking up the intelligence deep in the corset. We're here for 10, 9, breathing, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, with control, lower the head, lower the feet, teepee pose. Feet spread wide, knees knocked together, and observe. Supported bridge with your block at any height. This is our final active posture. If supported bridge is not calling to you, supported fish is an alternative. Supported bridge, lift the hips, slide the block at any height underneath the pelvis, so not the low back, a little further south than the belt loops. And you'll feel the musculature between the front of the hip points gently stretch. You might feel some movement through the pelvic floor. Those of you that have been applying Bandha, release Bandha. This is our restorative offering. Make sure there's not too much pressure in the head. You might have to crawl your shoulders underneath you for a little more support. Arms take any shape. Begin to lengthen the out breath. Long in a breath, attention to the exhales. Begin to add a pause in the absence of breath. Vaya Kumbhaka. Long exhale, pause on empty, and observe. When the body must, notice the inhale, long, purposeful exhale, pause on empty, and observe. This is the work. One more full round of Vaya Kumbhaka. Holding on empty until you must. Big breath in, sighing breath out. Taking the next minute of time to remove any props, attend to any final shapes, and meet me seated. You've got the next minute of time to remove your props, attend to any alternative shapes, and meet me seated. Once you arrive, settling your Drishti, your point of focus, back into the wick of the spine. Honoring that relationship between the midbrain and the heart and the heart and the pelvis. Attentive to the illuminated inner landscape. attentive to our own inner wisdom. Attentive to that inner illumination, light, the wellspring of power. Drawing the hands to touch at the heart. Let's seal in this class with the sound of peace. Take a breath in and a breath out. And inhale to chant. Namaste.